Good afternoon all, and thank you for your patience. On behalf of Solutions IT and Microsoft, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, which is the second of 4 Microsoft webinars where we're exploring some of the state's amazing MIE experts and looking at what they're doing. Today we have Michael Chiera, the Director of Learning Technologies and Innovation at Sacred Heart College, Petra Trinke, the Head of Learning Area Technologies at Hampton Senior High School, and Rob Dodds, Digital Learning Coordinator at Christchurch Grammar. And of course, we have the amazing Steve Payne from Microsoft and from Standard in Education, who will be hosting this session. On behalf of Solutions IT, thank you again for attending. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Sarah, and I'd just like to say thanks to Michael, Petra and Rob, who will be presenting. We've had a few little problems in the background, so Michael's screen is up on the video first. He will kick us off about forms, and then we'll move on to Petra and then Rob. So over to you, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I've been given the challenge of sharing what I know about forms and self-marking quizzes in 15 minutes. So wish me luck. So this is what I'm going to cover today. I'm going to start with the why. So why would you use Microsoft Forms in the classroom as a teacher? Then we're going to look at how to construct a quiz, how to deploy the quiz, and then how to view the responses. All right, and then I've got a link on the last screen. If I go really quickly and you want to come back and check out how to do these things, you can access this link, and there's a great Microsoft site that explains everything. So let's start. So why would you use forms? Well, forms can be used for basic surveys, so you can collect data, and then there's a really magic way that you can view and analyze that data. It can also be used as a quiz for pre-testing and post-testing in the classroom to see what the kids know and what they've learnt. You can use it as a summative assessment tool, self-marking. You can use it as a formative assessment tool where the students learn what they don't know and they learn as they go. And it also can be used as a self-assessment tool where the kids are learning by creating a quiz, for example. All right, so let's start with constructing the quiz. So the first point is knowing who your audience is, or who your audience is going to be. Now, to get to forms, the website for forms is forms.office.com. And on the first slide, if you click on the forms icon, it'll take you to this page here. Now, if you don't have any forms that you've created, you won't see all these squares on the screen. You'll just see new form or new quiz. And these forms are your personal forms that just you have access to. You've also got a shared with me area, and I'll come to that if I've got time. And you've got group forms as well. All right, so these are some forms that I've created, and I'm going to give you a view of some of those as we go. But the first point is, who is your audience? Because when you create a new form, so when you create a new form or a new quiz, but this is a new quiz. You need to decide who's going to be able to access this. So if I click on share here on this share button, you can share just with people in your organisation. So they'll need to sign in and authenticate, and you'll know who they are. The other way you can share a quiz or a survey is anyone with the link can respond. And there is no way of knowing who has, so it's basically anonymous, and you can collect the information about them. So think about who your audience is. If it's for the classroom, I suggest you keep it as only people in my organisation, and then you'll know who the student is and it will have all their details. So if you're needing to mark it, it'll have their name associated with it. The other point is, if you want to collaborate with other teachers, so let's say you want to, you're going to do half the quiz and another teacher is going to share the load, you can share this quiz and you can send them the collaborate link. All right, so if you click on that plus button, you've got this link here, so you can copy that and you can send them the link. Or a new feature recently is you can actually, if you're sharing it with someone in your organisation, you can click on that link and you can search for their name, and then you can collaborate with someone else on the quiz. So that's pretty cool. All right, this is a quiz I've started, shapes and numbers, a basic maths quiz. It looks pretty boring. So really quickly, you can add a theme to your quiz to make it look a bit prettier. So I'm going to add a theme, this one here. Okay, so now I've got a theme, and you can see all of a sudden that looks a lot better. If you don't like their options, you can add your own image as a background picture. So we use that as our school. We've got the logo at the background. Now it's pretty intuitive. So we've got this questions tab, and we can put a heading in. So I've already done that, shapes and numbers. You can put some details or a description of what the survey or the quiz is about. I've got the learning outcomes here, in here. And then I can start adding questions to my quiz. All right. So to add a new question, you just click add new. And we've got all these options here. So we've got choice, which is basically a multi-choice option. It can be either one option or multiple options. So you can, I'll show you how to manage that. You've got a text response, rating. You can collect the date. You've got ranking, which I really like. So you can have a list of options that the students have to rank, and I'll do a demo of that one. A like it scale. So here on the right, it says like it is used to gauge attitudes and opinions. So it's like a table with disagree, neutral, agree. So you can collect attitudes from people. You've got a file upload. Now, file upload will only be available if you've got the option for the users to sign in, because it requires a OneDrive account for that one. And don't worry about this one here. And then you've got sections, which are really useful for branching when I get to that. So let's try a few of these before I run out of time. So what you can do, so I've clicked on add new multiple, and I've got what shape is this? Now, if you want to pretty it up, once again, you can add an image. So I can click on insert media. You don't even have to leave here. So if I want to add an image, I can search for shapes, and it'll come up with an image that you can use straight from the search engine there. All right, let's see how long this takes. There you go. All right, so what shape is this? Not the best example. Let's say it's a square. So I can put in, let's start with square. Now, the AI in forms is improving all the time. So you'll notice when I put that first option square in, it suggests other options that you might want to present. So I can click on circle, triangle, okay, and then I can add another option if I chose to. All right, so you can, so there's the options there. All right, and I can make that required, or so if I'm going to enforce the students to answer this question, I can make it required or not. Okay, so that's an example of a multi-choice question. And if I want them to be able to select more than one, I can turn on multiple answers. Okay, and you'll notice they turn into squares and they can check more than one option. All right, so that's one example of a question you can add. Let's try another. So let's go to text. So if you add text, so just to mix it up here, we could say, watch the following video and write a short reflection. And once again, if I click on here, I can choose videos. And I've got a video here from YouTube, so I can copy that link and paste it into here. And then I can add my video, and that'll embed in the form. And at the moment, this is a short answer, so there's only one line. If I want a reflection, I would want that to be a long answer. So now the students can write a reflection on that. So you can see how basic it is to just add questions on the go. And just to give you some other options here, so we've got, you can put a subtitle on a question. Branching we're going to do in one tick. So that's another example question. And I think I will have to move on or I'm going to run out of time. So I'm going to leave it there. All right, so that's an example of how quickly you can add questions to your quiz. Now sections are, just to explain what sections are really important when you're branching. So I'm going to move on to branching, and I'm going to give you an example of something that I've done with branching on it. So this is a Year 12 ball form, and the students fill in this form. And depending on what they select, I don't want the students just to go from one question and section to the next. If they choose a particular response, so for example here, is student 1 bringing a guest? If they choose yes, I want them to go to the student 1 guest section, but if they're not, then I just want them to go straight to student 2. So what you can do once you've got your question set up, if you click ... and go to add branching, it comes up with a panel where it's kind of like choose your own adventure. So is student 1 bringing a guest? It'll allow you to choose where they go if they choose yes. So if they choose yes, they're going to go straight to section, if they're bringing a guest, they're going to go to section 2, student 1 guest. And if they're not, they'll go straight to student 2. So if I want to preview my form, and I recommend previewing it before you deploy it, I'll show you what it looks like. So student 1, so I've got some student names there, so I can't really demo this form, but in this the last section here, if they choose yes or no, it'll take them to the right screen. So you can preview your form on the computer. So this is what it will look like on the computer, and you can also see what it will look like on a mobile phone. All right, so that's pretty cool. All right, so that's branching. So I definitely encourage you to explore branching. Now, Steve, you can always let me know how I'm going for time because I'm not really good at time management.
I think you're good.
Right.
I'm just trying to find Rob. He seems to have disappeared, so you might be able to have an extra few minutes.
Okay, we'll see how I go. Thank you.
Thanks.
So once again, this is an example of a quiz that I've written. And just to explain a bit more about quizzes, so when you've got your question, you can decide how many points the question is worth. So you've got an option here, so this is worth 1 point. And then you can provide feedback depending on the answer that the student chooses. So I've ticked this because this is the correct answer, and I've got feedback saying yes, and it explains why that's the correct answer. For the other ones, it gives them a bit of an explanation why the answer is incorrect, and then it gives them the correct answer. So for the quiz, you write your question, you put your choices down, you can give feedback for each choice that they give. So I've got feedback if they choose that answer, this answer, and so on. You choose the correct answer or answers. So you can have two answers that are correct. And then you make it required and it's worth 1 point. Now, just a tip for quizzes, if they're going to be summative assessments done in class, you've got an option to shuffle the options. Now, this is really cool because what it means is every student will get a different arrangement of answers. So it's going to make it harder for them to collude during the assessment. All right, so that's a really cool tip for you to take with that one. Yeah, so you got your correct answers, and then this quiz will automatically add up all the marks for you if they're automatically marked. So if they can easily be marked, so short answers, you could put a word in there that they have to enter, and you can make it self-marking. But it's always good to review the responses just to make sure that students haven't got a spelling error, and you still want to give them marks for that. So this is an example of what a form, the forms come in as. So I'm just moving to the last screen, which is viewing responses. So if you've created a quiz, this is what the quiz responses look like. So question 1, this is another quiz that I gave just to staff, just as a fun activity. But it's really good for you as a teacher to see what the class knows. So this is an example here. What is the world's smallest country? 76% of people who took the survey or took the quiz got it wrong. So this is something that I would certainly revisit as a teacher if it's something that I taught. In this case, it wasn't, it was a quiz. So really, really good feedback here on what questions people struggled with and which ones were pretty straightforward. All right. So yeah, so that's the feedback, and you get the bar charts or the pie charts with that information on there. All right, if you want more detailed feedback, you can open this in a spreadsheet. So if you click open in Excel, and if you've got qualitative responses, this is the way that you'll see what they wrote in their longer, in their longer answers. So you've got your ID. Now this was an anonymous survey, so I don't get the student names here. But if you restricted it to people in the tenant, you'll automatically get the names of your students or the participants here, which is really handy. And it gives you more, data here that you can sort through and yeah, just go a bit deeper into the data there. So that's downloading the spreadsheet. And if you want to share this data, so this is another example of this is a Learning Technologies mini course feedback. So this is the feedback this is what the feedback looks like in a normal survey. All right, so this was ranking. So I've got how many people had this as their first choice, etc. So this is what the feedback looks like here. If I want to share this feedback with someone, I can click here, more options. I can create a summary link of the feedback, and then I can post that link somewhere for others to view. All right, so that's probably it from me. There's my 15 minutes. So that in a nutshell, that's really quickly what you can do with forms. My last slide gives you a link to this fantastic website which shows you how to use forms. They say build a form in minutes, and it's got lots of great videos and extra information which will go into a bit more detail on what I've covered today. So that was a bit of a whirlwind, but I hope it gives you a bit of an idea of how you might use quizzes and surveys in your classroom.
Thanks, Michael. That was a little clap from me. I've put a link into the Microsoft Educator Community course on forms, and we'll also put a link into your special help website as well. Petra, do you want to share your screen in? And Petra's going to talk to us about some of the inclusive classroom tools in Microsoft 365.
Okay, this is NAIDOC week.
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. Well, hello everyone. I actually did want to share my face because I got my merch pack and I wore to school my MIE Expert t-shirt today. So that's why I wanted to share my face. So today's session is about the immersive reader and how that has had quite a bit of an impact for our Year 7. So part of the Aboriginal Cultural Standards framework and integrating that into our digital technologies curriculum, we've focused on creating NAIDOC Week PowerPoints to celebrate the First Nations people of Australia. So I'm not going to go through the little bit of research and boring part of it, but essentially we wanted the students to use PowerPoint from a design concept point of view to build up those skill sets. So when they do get to Year 11 and 12, they could embed that into their curriculum in AIT. So looking at NAIDOC Week and the ancient land, we've got some astronomy and we looked at aquaculture, leaders, and speaking through art. And then, of course, we had the focus on the Dreamtime stories. Our first activity was actually using some of the functionality and features of PowerPoint and this groovy remove background feature. So that was quite good for the students. And then they were to select the background and create a story that also was culturally sensitive, that conveyed a lot of text information. So our issue was students that either have dyslexia or they had difficulty on reading quite complex amount of information. So this is just basically the marking schematic. So, you know, it's a digital solution about the production and information and, of course, an evaluation bit there. So I had to create 5 to 10 slides based on a Dreamtime story. And this is what we gave them. So this is just a Word document opened in 365, in Word Office 365. And it is just all text. We have got students who are using the reading pens, and they have said that the reading pen is not as good as what Immersive Reader is. So to find Immersive Reader, you need to go to the View tab in Word, and then just go to Immersive Reader. Now, a little bit of a hint is where you would like your reading to start is where your cursor needs to be in that document. So if I go to the Rainbow Serpent, which is the very first NAIDOC story or Dreamtime story that we're going to go through, cursor's at the top, just click that Immersive Reader button and we are into...
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're just still seeing the PowerPoint. Are we?
No.
Oh, we're not, okay. Sorry.
Okay, I'm not
Sorry.
sure.
I'm just seeing the PowerPoint, Steve and Petra.
No, I think we're okay. Sorry. Just.
Is that better?
That's better, yeah.
Yeah. Oops. Okay, sorry. So yeah, just to go back a bit. So here's all the text. So you can see it's quite comprehensive and a little bit overwhelming for some students, especially if they're poor readers. So just need to click on that Immersive Reader tab. It'll open up in this new page and we're good to go. Now, usually there is a little hint, tips and tricks that will activate the first time that you use the Immersive Reader. You've got a play button, which it will start to read the information out to you. But that's not all. The fantastic part about this is that you can actually, it's got some settings in there that you can cater to whoever's actually viewing this information. So if I have a student that can't comprehend a lot of information, I can then just change the line focus to being one line, one word at a time. So if I click on play, so that's quite good. And then of course I can change that line focus to 3 lines or just toggle that off. The other fantastic feature is that I can use the font settings and increase the size of the font, especially if they have issues with sight, increasing the spacing, changing the font style, but also something that is pretty cool here is usually with dyslexic students, they say that printing out on coloured sheets of paper, blue or possibly even green, actually helps them to see the words. So I can actually change that to a blue background, and that may also assist those students. The next amazing feature of Immersive Reader is the grammar options. So if they are really weak with their literacy, I can then turn on syllables, and then it will help them to sound out as they are reading with the Immersive Reader. Another great thing is that I can turn nouns on, so then they can identify maybe these are the types of things that they need to show in their interactive story. Verbs can be animations, and so that's the movement of things. And then, of course, I can just toggle the rest of them on or off. So there you go. That's Immersive Reader. I can also change the speed of the voice and a male or female voice selection. And the last one is that I can also, I don't know if I can, where's my, I can choose a different language. Particularly in the context of my school, we're very multicultural, and there are many, many different types of languages to choose from. So that's been a bit of a lifesaver in actual fact. So yeah, and I'll show you what an example looks like. Let me just jump back out of that one. And I change this screen. Can you see that example?
We can see a frog.
Yeah, good. And so there, they've given animations. So yeah, I'm just going through that quite quickly. But yeah, there we go. I think that's me. Was that more than 10 minutes? Under 10 minutes?
I wasn't counting, but that was perfect. Thank you for sharing your thanks for sharing your work with us.
All right, so we're going to go on with this one. We've had a few technical issues on this end network-wise, so if things go wrong, I'm going to blame everybody else. But look, today really what I want to talk to you about is more of something that Microsoft tools have empowered us to do really as we're moving forward. We're by no means finished with it, but it's something that really, without those tools, would be very difficult to do indeed. You'll probably have heard the quote, it's been done a lot now by Alan November about teachers need to stop saying hand it in and start saying publish it. And I changed it slightly for the title on this as to being stop saying print it, basically, or moving from print it. And that's because when I looked around at it, I thought to myself, how are we limiting our students in terms of what they can do, the value that comes from the work that they're producing and the creativity, particularly in the range they're producing, if we're limiting them to 2 dimensions on paper. Now, whether that's going into a Word document, just doing the type and text as they normally would, and not really bringing it forward, and also looking really into those more 21st century, those key soft skills that we have drawn forward. So, why would it connect with our students in the first place? A lot of people will say to me when I look at these things, well, our students don't publish anything, how are they going to know what to do? It's too big. Not so much. The idea of publishing, or at least micro-publishing, is something that's been around for a long time now with the social media elements. Not that all of our students are, but a lot of them are. And so when we're talking about these things, I actually did a thing about instructional video a little while ago, and I said looking at things like TikTok, looking at things like YouTube, look at what the students enjoy or what they want from those types of videos and draw them in. And the same thing really should be us trying to draw the students to use the same ideas. So if we're looking at publishing, really, we're not just talking about a book, the traditional sense. So really we looked at it, this idea being that it's moving away from a diversity of audience. Alan November tells a great story about a student who gets up in the morning and says, well, I can either write for my teacher or I can write for the world by writing in class, or I can go on to an amateur writer site and actually share my work with lots of people who will give me feedback, who are into it, who really know what's going on, who share the same passions. So the idea of the teacher being the only audience, the only point there, no matter how much context we put to it at times, we can go further. That idea of it being a genuine purpose and context, and that really is something then that draws forward that ownership and investment from students. And you'll notice that a little bit blithely I've managed to make the acronym of DRIVE on my main points here, including the voice and the exchange, the idea that you're live within that feedback and it's coming from multiple sources and experts and perhaps beyond your normal point of review. And I chose DRIVE because I've been reading again Daniel Pink. If you've not read the book DRIVE, please do read it. But really it comes down to 3 points, and that's autonomy versus independence. If we give them a project, we let them out as autonomous. If we're the only point of check on that, it becomes independence, not autonomy. They don't have free choice. They still have to meet our particular expectation. Mastery versus meeting expectations. We get those kids who will hit the points on the rubric but won't take themselves further. We're holding that innovation. And then that idea of purpose versus passing. Well, is it something they're going to take beyond this? Is it something they're going to embrace, or is it just to get that mark? And I'll not read it, but this is the quote that keeps coming back to me from Daniel Pink. And really, this is the one that the thing that would frighten me most if it happened to students. Okay, so we do get some students, what if they don't want to publish their work? Well, we're not just talking about the work that they're doing. We're talking about teaching them all these different elements about personal data and security, making wise choices and smart choices, teaching them about intellectual property and their rights, plagiarism, the idea of a digital tattoo. These are things that will show up digitally for them for years and years to come. It may as well be something really positive and impassioned and show their creativity. And of course, those 21st century skills. So I'm not going to read through all this, but that fits in beautifully with our Christchurch pedagogy, whether that's catering for differences, enhancing personal best, or providing structure and feedback for both students and teachers. And it also fits through with these 21st century learning design courses. You may have seen these before, and I think they're still absolutely very, very useful and draw in well for this thinking. Okay. This came to head for us with our innovation space in the prep school. Not all our students look this happy all of the time, but of course we're just covering up IDs. But this is a point where we really started to develop the Project X mentality that we've started using for designing activities that allow the students to have that meaningful, purposeful publication. Now, let's have a look at some examples. I'm very cautious about my time. So, how Microsoft tools do that. I'm not going to go through them all because there just isn't time. So I'm going to throw just a quick intro on some of these key ones. And lots of them are very familiar. Look, you can't go wrong. If you've got these in the bag, or even 2 or 3, you pick and mix them, you're going to be able to get something very different for your students. Microsoft Word, we've got a huge amount going on right now in terms of Microsoft Word. And in fact, if I just show you, I should have, there may even be one here I prepared earlier. There we go. I'll choose a fairly poor example, but here's a document that I threw in just a little bit earlier. And the idea is that, if this was a standard document, this would simply go to my teacher, they would mark it up and we'd move on from there. But
sorry, we just can't see that at the moment.
Oh, my apologies.
We're stuck on the PowerPoint, but that's good.
That's all right. Let's just see. Hang on, let me just ping back up there. Might just need to come out of that mode. There we are. Can you see that now? Can you see the document now, Stephen?
No, it looks like there's obviously some gremlins moving around today.
Okay. So look, I apologize. What I'll do is when I send Stephen a copy of this to to work with, guys. I'll include some little videos just demonstrating some of the specific tools, but I'll walk you through the use in that case. Okay, and you don't want to see that slide. Okay. Basically, Microsoft Word has become this fantastic tool. My favorite thing in there is the transform tool. If you've not used that, have a look at it. It takes you from just producing a standard Word document, anything that you've got in there. Using that, it will take it and it will automatically lift it into a sway, meaning you have an immediate pick out to a web page that you can share with a much broader audience that can have those pieces in there, and include things like you can include links to forms. You can have your feedback come through as well. We've been having that happen a lot with students who are then using QR codes to gallery their sways, which means that actually your feedback now starts coming through from students who have passed by, parents who have passed by, visitors to the school. It's very empowering. Flipgrid itself, again, is a really great one. I'm going to come to a specific example, but the idea of Flipgrid, being able to share whether it's performances, and that's certainly something we've looked at using here in terms of drama and so forth and sport. Also in terms of just sharing those pieces of work and then inviting discussion on pieces or drawing opinion. Paint 3D, I'll come back to in a moment, but again, designing and actually producing to share in different digital spaces. MakeCode and Microbits, we've been doing that collaborative build, and then having that innovation space. A lot of our projects where we'll bring parents in. We've had one, for example, where we were redesigning recycling bins, which was something the boys identified within their groups, to gamify them. We then actually had a recycling company and a member of the council come in to look at those to see which ones they like best, and we got feedback from the experts as they were being developed. Microsoft Stream, I know that not everybody's got a hold of that one yet, but it's personally my favorite Microsoft tool at the moment for this. The idea of being able to run things like reflection journals, being able to hold staggered discussions, being able to have students reply and draw back on those is absolutely fantastic. And Sway, as we mentioned, is there. So these tools are not the only ones, and we'll give you a few other examples, but if you can get into these, you'll find everything that you need. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. So this is one of my favorite projects at the moment. And what this moved from was a discussion one day about us all being lonely nerds in the IT department, sitting there doing our stuff by ourselves. And one of the things we were doing, we were redesigning our year 8 coding unit, which was originally just assessed by a straightforward test, fix it, what's wrong with this code. And we wanted to get a little bit more creative. So we started this by then getting the boys to actually create choose your own adventure games using collaborative means, so using a notebook and Word initially to put together the base of how the game was going to work. That's now extended, so we're actually working with the the English department, my apologies. They're going to write those pieces within English based on what would happen in order to get an understanding of the character and the novel itself, what would happen if a key point changed within that novel. So they'll actually collaboratively write those stories and outcomes in English. While they're doing that, they'll be mapping and planning in Notebook how that's going to work and sharing pieces of code. So they'll actually be doing a collaborative code build. Those will then be shared using OneDrive, and again, OneDrive, a massively fantastic tool for schools if you use it properly, to actually share those finished codes so that we have an arcade version that basically our year 6s are going to be able to play. And then there's Flipgrid set up to allow the boys who are playing it down in year 6 to leave reviews. And their review videos, again, we can have QR code posters up. So students coming into the library who want to go and try out one of these games, they can go and scan using their device, get that QR code up and watch a review before choosing their game. And of course, that means that the boys who are building the games, they can then enter into conversation and leave those back up, because if you're going to have that publication, it means that your feedback becomes live and ongoing. It doesn't become a fixed end point at the end of the summative. It's something they can carry on to. And the Microsoft 365 particularly tools really empower students within that space. For some reason, half of this slide hasn't actually come through, but that's fine. Basically, one of my favorite ones was looking at using Minecraft, a much younger group. And again, this was something we used Word for actually developing the pieces. They were using devices from another company. That doesn't matter. But they're using Word on there to plan and actually put together what they wanted to do. And this was looking at the school building program. We had a gap left in the school. What does it need to be used for? What are you going to build? What would really benefit the school, the community, and so forth? And we're just using Minecraft and actually having the kids go in and create these structures, which then using the Surface devices around the room as well, we were able to bring out and use the MR options, so that when this became a piece, we could actually gallery these and place them on the spot in where the building should be. And then that was where our tours, as it were able to give feedback to those boys. So actually developing this in a much broader scope and a cross-curricular way. And then another one, and as I say, this didn't update, this was a problem we're having with our network. Forget the school building program, but this one was looking about a simple research program, which then became originally from the book and originally from open internet access and research. It then became using Sway to present an ongoing and updated website with review points, using OneNote to collaboratively do the research across the point, then using Researcher, and again, using lots of different elements there for those to go. Now, the thing that came to me with this one was that we look at this and you'll notice everything that we've looked at so far, and this is where lots of people go, and this is where I'm now trying to drive parts of our staff is, if you look at the main thing I think people assume with this, we have that one, we've already talked about that. Oh man, it really has jumped on me. The main one that I really want to see people consider in this is the idea that this isn't just for your summative assessments. So one of the most powerful things that I've actually done with this is move this into a space where we're using these particular publications for our formative assessments, because that feedback, that diverse, timely feedback is now available to the students as they're learning, not just afterwards. And we all know that the timescales and schools can throw us out. By using these tools, we have the ability to share, open up, draw out. We're now looking at building, and we have a fantastic old boys network here, full of people who specialize in every field available. And so we're now looking at using that to create sets of contacts whereby the boys can draw feedback directly from experts known within the school, and we can do all the checks, etc. We can do all the security, sharing through OneNote, through Domain. All those bits and pieces can be handled so easily through the Microsoft tools that we have available. So that's pretty much it from me. There might be some other bits there in terms of that one, but I'll add some of those little videos, the bits that just would not download. We had an issue with our network there. And if anyone's any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me there. Contact details beyond there. And via Stephen.
Thank you very much, Rob. Lots and lots packed into that 15-minute session. I look forward to seeing the slides. And thanks, Petra and Michael, for presenting. And thanks, everyone, for bearing with us. We had a few network issues and other things, but hopefully you found that really useful. We will tidy up the video and send you a link to that. And we will run another one of these in about a month's time. Sarah.
Thanks, Stephen, and look, thanks to Michael, Petra, and Rob. That was just excellent. It really it's very insightful examples of how you're all using those Microsoft tools in your classroom. As Stephen has already pointed out, this recording will be available. I'll send it out to everybody that I have email addresses for. So if you've got a link for today, you will be able to. You'll get a link for the for this recording. But it will also be available on our website from tomorrow as well. On behalf of Solutions IT, just once again, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.